And here I am. Okay, so this is going to be part 2, finishing up on my takeaway from my 9 months of research and being on a couple of 3 different MicroStock sites. So we'll jump right into this. Sorry everything's so long, but once I start talking, I can't stop. Okay, next thing I got here is meeting quality standards, and that's a really interesting thing with doing the MicroStocks. That the different agencies, I guess, have different qualities. I've only been in with 3, of which Shutterstock is really strict on their quality standards from what I've been used to shooting the last 40 years. And Adobe is also pretty strict on theirs, maybe not quite as much. It is the case with Shutterstock that they're when they reject something, they're a little more helpful on where they direct you to find out, why they rejected it. You don't get a personal review, but you can go look at some content and have a better chance to figure out what it is that you didn't do right, or what they're looking for their images as far as image quality. Had less trouble with Alamy, but in doing Alamy for 9 months, I haven't sold a single thing out of there, so I stopped loading to them a couple of months ago. Plus, they take more time to customize or to get their keywords up than any place else. So, so I'm just really the 2 are working. With Shutterstock, I think, as far as for a learning process, I've learned a lot more in working with them about what the digital process today can do. How it can maximize that. You can really get a max out your equipment to meet their standards sometimes. If you're not shooting a super high-end camera, I guess they might be better, but just a pro-consumer camera. So you have some high standards that you're having to go for. Again, I've not tried the lower prices, the cell phone kind of things, smartphone things, which people are using those. So, but as far as for SLR, shooting high standards, again, we're not shooting medium format or 4x5 or any of this stuff. This is still just shooting a 35 millimeter. So some things I found was you got to view everything at 100% and really go over your entire picture frame at 100% to see what is you have there, because they're definitely catching on noise and artifacts, and they're catching on posterization. They're definitely catching on sharpness on things, which can be an issue sometimes. They say they're not looking for everything to be 100% through the whole frame, just the main subject matter. But occasionally I found that wasn't true. They didn't understand that you wanted things to blur, or if you blur something, really blur it. Don't just modestly blur it. But main subject matter has to be really sharp at 100%. Just kind of mind-boggling. Again, I'm kind of used to the jewelry area where the jewelers don't want you to make their jewelry that much detail on it, because then they see all the little solder left and all the little file marks or something that might got left behind. So, but that's what they're looking for. Other things I found like I got to use a tripod all the time. Handheld just isn't getting the sharpness on it. If I lock it down on a tripod, then I really get the sharpness that they're wanting. I found I definitely got to shoot the lowest ISO possible. Most of the time I try not to go over 200. I think maybe I pushed to 400 one time, but basically I'm shooting at 100 ISO and everything. Definitely had to learn about the optics on the lenses today. You got to really find that sweet spot on your lens, which is going to be the sharpest area. Old lenses didn't used to fall off. It used to be, they all had a sweet spot, which would be a different place. But if you stopped it down, you could easily stop down to F16, F22, and it would hold the focus, maybe just a slight bit off, but hold the focus. I'm fine with some of these new lenses. And again, these are kit lenses, so they're not the best quality, but it's kind of a budget process. I'm finding that, boy, once I drop out of that sweet spot, phew, it goes down real quick. It's like I'm supposed to pick up depth of field. It just matter if everything gets equally blurry with it. So you got to really work within that sweet spot. And then I'm finding that if I want to maybe do something close up with greater depth, I'm having to do that focus stacking stuff. So I'm trying to get better at doing that. Also found that I had to get to a really serious, I shoot RAW, and I think after trying to let the camera do the processing for me, that just wasn't working out. It's amazing how goofy it is once you start comparing shooting RAW and letting the camera process. If you do the JPEG and a RAW file, the little analogs in there do really screwy stuff. So I had to just shoot RAW. Then I had to get to a really serious RAW processor that really can manipulate a lot of stuff. A lot of learning curve on this, but some of the RAW stuff, like the one I'm into now, a lot of incredible capabilities to it, and still a lot to learn. Terrible documentation on it, but it's free. I like it. Found it much easier to go through and shoot video. HD video. Quality level on that is like way down compared to what having to shoot on stills. So I should be shooting more videos, what it keeps telling me. Okay, another point I had or takeaway was you get things that people say your photo should be. And most people say, well, they should be contrasty and saturated because it catches the eye, it jumps off the pages. But then the other side, and you got this from the stock companies, more MicroStock company, photos should not be saturated. Leave the adjustments to the client. Leave the adjustment to the final consumer. They can punch it up. They know how to do it if they want to do that. But they want to have the option to run it up or run it down depending upon what their needs are. So we got two different points of view on that one. So I kind of go with whatever the image is going to dictate to me to do. And I tend to go with a less saturated image that I put up because I understand the idea of being able to do final work on the piece, on the photo, to go into the purpose or piece that you're doing, especially having done so much, having done also graphic design and spent a lot of time at the end of Heidelberg presses pulling proof sheets and press sheets off, understanding how that last manipulation to get it ready for press, or these days to go on the internet, depending on what size, or incorporate it into a video, doing the Ken Burns effect. It's kind of nice to have as much option at the end as possible. Okay, definitely found a random of the reviewers, which gets really frustrated on the education side. I've had images that I've gone through in the same setup, shot the same thing on it, just switched out subject matter or did something, so everything is pretty identical. One gets rejected, the other one is okay, and it's like technically they're both the same, but they'll go through and say, oh, we're seeing noise on this one. It's like, why didn't you see noise in the last one? And again, I had one day I was doing this stuff, and I decided the person's having a bad day, and better off just to not say anything else in that day, and wait till they either come back feeling better or they switch me off to a different reviewer. So that can be frustrating, and the rejection rates really vary between the different agencies. Now, I've had images accepted by Shutterstock and then get rejected by Adobe. I've generally had better luck when I get images with all the releases on them to Adobe. a better chance for them being accepted there than I do with Shutterstock. Alamy really kind of took everything, just a few they rejected. I really thought the format and stuff for Alamy was going to be good, but obviously you don't get any sales. It's not worth putting the time in on it. I found definitely for most of the stuff I saw and researched on it that the MicroStock is just kind of a side gig. Nobody was doing it full-time professional on it. Nobody was making enough money to do that. Most people were shooting for happy to go through and be able to have some money to buy another piece of photo equipment. And I've really, for me, I've done enough years of just working to buy equipment that I'm kind of done with that. Don't really want to do that. But if you're starting up and you're going to also be photographing other things, photographing weddings or events or things like that, then having extra money to buy another lens might be pretty nice to do. Sorry about that. Now I'm still looking, and I'm still researching, still learning on this stuff. It's going to be going on for a while longer. Now again, going back with this is MicroStock. Stock photography is a different game. Like I said, that's where the big boys play, and they're handling that in a different fashion. Still remains, I think, that if you're in with a few of the stock agencies that are left, and you're in on their jury, their cadre that they're working with, some of those people can probably make a living because they're not selling images for 25 cents. They're selling for a lot more money than that. Okay, then my final on this is, for a lot of people, it seems to work. If you're already out shooting something, if you're already have an assignment where you're shooting for a sporting event, and you pick up some extra photos from that, where meet a Shutterstock or meet a stock agency kind of need. It just takes you a little extra processing time. Again, a little caption time, but I find that the captions may not be that, keywords may not be that critical on things. So minimum time can be put into that. So yeah, it's extra money, really already did the photos. Go for it. In my case, initially started with, I had thousands of images I've done over the years, last 10 years digitally, and I had them sit in a file, so on a hard drive. So I went through them and saw what was generic, what wasn't going to violate a client's copyright or a fiduciary trust, and just started working with those images, because it's like they're doing nothing now. If I can get them up, and just even for a learning experience right now is pretty good. So it's kind of see the MicroStock for doing that. It also works as part of the learning process. I've been using it for that. I think it's very good in some ways for a learning process. You already have a base knowledge. If you can't figure out what they're talking about from the start, you need to go back to a very rudimentary thing. But if you're kind of getting more mid-level, or you want to be challenged to figure out why, what the heck all this noise and what are they seeing on these things is about, and then learn from that, from the getting critiqued and getting turned down, it can be good for that. It's also nice if you want to do a self-assignment. Right now, because I'm learning, trying new things, breaking out of what I've done in the past, it's kind of fun because I've set up my self-assignments to go work on something, and or in the studio here also shooting things. It's nice to go through and be able to immediately throw something up to see what somebody thinks about it. Will it pass their quality? If I'm doing the right thing on these focus stacks, is that the level that will be accepted? So it's kind of, and also then to throw it out to the world, because I shot a whole group of things playing around with some different ideas, different backgrounds, and then just immediately they obviously went on the news section, and had a number of them get bought right away. Again, made $2. so it wasn't money maker, but it was good to go through and see where and see that people were interested, was accepted. Saw there's distribution out throughout the world. Less of my stuff gets picked up in the United States, a lot more throughout the world. So it's kind of fun to reinforce self-assignment learning curve that way. Again, for me, it's been very good for bringing up my skill levels from what we were doing in the past to what they're really demanding today, which I don't know why they're demanding it. I mean, it goes online, and the resolution down there is really way down. But anyway, like they said, golden rule. They've got the gold. They make the rules. So it's been a good challenge to go work with that. It's a good way to experiment with ideas, and then to put them up real quick and see what happens. That's kind of like the self-assignment thing. So it's been nice doing that. So those kind of things I'll continue to do. It also gives me excuse because, like, oh, I'm going to go photograph for stock, and I need to get out there and photograph this. And yeah, I can work on the roof later, or I can do the dishes later. I want to go because I enjoy doing photography. Always enjoy doing photography. So it gives me a nice excuse to get out and go shoot, and I like that. Initially, I started this whole thing looking to answer a question about the reality of this stuff. And I have my answer now that this won't provide a significant income for my retirement, but it can be a nice hobby. So it's not really giving me an income. I was hoping for something with an ongoing passive income, but yeah, it's not gonna be anything that's gonna, be worth anything at all, really. But it's kind of a nice hobby, and it's a good education process. For the time being, I'm going to continue doing it. I like the mental challenge on it, keep my skills developing and up to date. Really need to start shooting more video, which I've kind of been hearing from everybody out there. And so that would kind of be my next thing to be more of a challenge, is to actually shoot the videos I have in mind rather than just writing down ideas about videos. So those are my takeaways for at this point, 9 months into this thing, and some points that I've learned, which hopefully might be useful to others also, if they have the same initial questions I did. And that will conclude my second part of this. So I thank you for watching.